consciousness, liberation, alignment, real, intention, time, yoga, clarity. Although your words might be different than my own to represent clarity, I think in and of itself the word is very much black and white. Hi there, my name is Manj Karthagazer. Welcome to another Tuesdays with Manj. Very much about clarity, getting clear with our lives so as to live the best life ever. I'm going to start out by talking about the law of attraction, and I'm going to speak about the law of attraction because it is the basis of what we want and how we create and shape our lives, and that's through our thoughts and emotions. So when we're out there in our day-to-day experience and we're being wishy-washy about our job, our partner, our education, about anything, then that's what we're getting back. We're getting back the wishy-washy uncertainty. So how do we actually change that? How do we go from a place of, knowing that we're deserving of all kinds of goodness and wonderful stuff, but we're just not quite reaching the things that we desire. So I'm going to first ask you to put on your goggles, rose-colored they may be, your wellies, roll up your sleeves, and let's start by being really prepared to wade through what might be very uncomfortable. And I say that because I had a beautiful experience very recently of speaking to somebody who, who I respect and admire very much, who I pulled into my vibration. And this person, we were talking about business, and the person said to me, look, you're doing awesome, you've got an awesome message, but there's something going on up here that you need to get more clear about. And the moment that was said to me, I was like, my heart beat it out of my chest because I knew the very thing that he was talking about. And I'll get back to that in a moment. But the point is that it might be uncomfortable. There's a good chance of you getting, of it not feeling comfortable for you. I think you'll know what I'm talking about when I describe it like this. If you getting clear means that you might or very well will likely hurt somebody else, then the reason why we haven't done it before is precisely because of that, right? The fear of hurting someone else. But what that tells me about you and I is that when, we haven't done the very thing that we needed to in our lives, to protect somebody else's feelings or protect somebody else's existence, then that's self-sacrifice, isn't it? That's putting ourselves second. That's putting ourselves in the passenger seat of our own car, right? Does that make sense? I bet that's going to resonate with a few of you. So in my own experience, this person said your signal scattered about a month and a half ago. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I did it. And then I went back on it. And then I did it again. And then I went back on it. So it kind of flip-flopped like a pancake. And very recently, it's just become blatantly clear that it needs to be the way that it is, the way I chose a month ago, the way I knew for such a long time. Intuition screaming at me ignoring, saying, I got this, no problem. This is I'm going to do this. Right, ego aside and coming back to now. So I understand what it takes to get clear, and I understand why we don't do it. So I'm going to ask you here and now today to be selfish, so that you can get to the other side, so that you can get back to you, so you can get back onto the path of your greatness and what you're supposed to do with your life and be. So we've got our goggles on, we've got our wellies on, we've rolled up our sleeves, and we're going to be selfish. And in fact, you know what? Let's change that word from selfish to self-love. Because what you're doing is, you know, when you're not putting yourself first, and everyone else is first, and you're the martyr and the good Samaritan, whatever, is you're here at this place where life isn't giving you exactly the things that you want, right? So continuing forward, how do we tap into our own clarity? How do we do it? I mean, it seems so obvious. It seems like a no-brainer, but I've been stuck. I've been stuck. So I imagine there's a lot of us that are or have been, and we need to come to that place to jump over and free ourselves. You know, as I say in my representation of the word clarity, liberation for myself. So just going back on that point before the next one, if you becoming selfish and loving yourself means to somebody else you're becoming mean or a jerk or whatever, that's their perception of you. That's going to come. There's a really good chance that when you start putting yourself first, that's a reaction that you might get. And I ask you to just continue on your way with the utmost and most strongest love for yourself. So going forward from, you know, becoming selfish, filling yourself with love, how do we get clear? We stop. We stop everything. Stop being busy. Let's turn off our phones. Let's stop avoiding ourselves, and let's just get really, really quiet. And do that for a little while. You know, if you would normally come home from work, throw on the telly, and busy yourself with, you know, a whole bunch of nothingness or shows that you enjoy, but then you go to bed thinking, oh man, you know, I really need change. I really need to change this thing in my life. It keeps coming back day after day after day, month after month. I ask you to stop. Instead of watching TV, just stop. Don't do anything. And I know that's really, really difficult. I've had people say to me, but Manj, I can't stop. I need to be busy. And you're the exact person, my love, that needs to stop and take a look at what is going on and where you want to be. So the next point after stopping and practicing to stop, it doesn't have to be in meditation. If that feels comfortable for you, go there. If you want to do yoga, go there. But the point is, even those things can busy you from yourself when not done from a heart-centered place. Come back to you. Stop everything. Get really quiet. And then I ask you to, when you're ready, when you're really, really ready, sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil. I ask you not to do this on your tablet, your iPad, or the computer, or your phone. I ask you to do this with your own hands. And I ask you to write. It's just one piece of paper, an A4, and I would love for you to start from right now and write a story about the rest of your life. Whatever happened to this point, look, you've been such a star. You've survived everything, and you've thrived. You're here now, a little bit unclear, a little bit stuck. So we start right here and now, however old you are, doesn't matter if you're 17 or 71, and we write down the rest of our lives from this very point until the very last breath that we take. And I want you to be clear. I don't want you to make this long and drawn out. Okay, this can happen on that sheet of paper, front and back. Do it quick. What do you want in your life? What do you want from your life? What do you want from other people? What do you want from your partners and your children and your job? Everything that's important to you. What do you want? Not what you think someone else wants of you. This is all about you, baby. This is your time. Okay, this is how we get really clear. And it pays off to be clear. I'm going to tell you 2 more stories before I end this talk. The first one was 9-ish years ago, and it was when I was still working in London in the events industry before I became an event manager. And so I was a waitress in those days, and there was a massive event at Old Billingsgate Market. 1,200 people, a lot of VIPs. It was something to do with rugby and boxing, and, you know, huge, just absolutely massive. And this little cookie got left without a job. So, everything is starting, and my team leader comes up to me saying that, I'm a floater. I didn't have a specific team or anything. And she gives me a crazy job. She hands me a tray and says, I need you to go to that VIP table over there and set up some extra covers or some extra guys on it. So I walk over, no problem, until I see the table. And there are about 10 or 12 really big, burly men sitting there. I was so out of my comfort zone. So, I'm naturally social and whatnot, but so out of my zone. I went and approached somebody, asked him, I can't even remember what, and he said, you know what, talk to that guy over there. So I went over to that guy over there, and, things are starting. 1,200 people in this place at Old Bill, massive banquet charity gig, and things are starting. And here I am, the only waitress on the floor, or maybe a few, I can't remember. It was dark, and I go over to this guy, and I asked him a question, whatever it was, and he completely goes off topic, and he asks me my name, where I'm from, and then he says, come sit down on my lap. And I mean, I didn't know what to do. It was just, there were so many people. I was so, completely out of my element, so uncomfortable. And here I am holding this heavy tray full of cutlery and stuff. I had something in my other hand as well. So I'm just kind of standing there like, oh my God, he's a really big guy. I'm a little wee thing. So, he says, come sit down on my lap. That's the only place. And, with this handful, something in the other, there I am sitting on his lap, because he's this big thing, I'm this little wee thing, and my bum was at his, lap level, sitting there. And he turns around to all the men, these rugby players and boxers, whoever. I mean, they're all people that my peers recognize. I had no idea. I'm not into rugby. I'm not into, those sports, but they're big guys. And he turns around to everybody and says, hey, this is Manj. She's from Canada. Isn't she beautiful? And I turn a million shades of red, going from uncomfortable to uncomfortable times a million. Like, it was the weirdest thing. Carrying on, he asks me what I'm doing, and he says, surely you're not just a waitress. You do, like, you've got something else going on. My heart's beating a million miles a minute. This is, all very weird. And I say, well, yeah, I'm a designer. Now, just to backtrack for a second, I did study fashion design. I love it. And at the time I was in London doing fitness, teaching fitness classes, but traveling and waitressing to fund my traveling. But out of my mouth came, I'm a designer. And so he said to me, well, listen, why don't you give me your number, and I'm going to call you, and let's see what we can do for you. And even at that point, I'm thinking, I don't even know. I couldn't lie. Here's this guy. I have no idea who he is. I don't know if he's legit, whatever. And so he takes a napkin, hands me a pen. I write down my real number, and afterwards I was like, oh my God, are you an idiot? Like, so the night ends. The next day, Saturday, I'm at home, and my phone rings like 4 times, and no message was left. And I was so afraid to answer. Of course it was him. Of course it was him. I was so afraid to answer, but eventually when I did, at his absolute relentless persistence, we got into a conversation, continuing on from the day before, about what it is that I want to do. And he's telling me, well, do you want to work for Vogue? Do you want to be a Bollywood actress? What is it that you want? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. I'd love to go to India. I'd love to work for Vogue. I'd love to work for, big designer. So he suggested that we continue the conversation over a glass of wine in person. And I reluctantly accepted. And I was thinking to myself, wow, this is really cool and really scary at the same time. So there, a week or two or whatever later, I went to meet him up in North London, and his story was pretty amazing. He brought books along with him that he'd published. He produced the Bee Gees. He was in the film Grease. Lots of stuff, lots of legit stuff. He wasn't just this creepy old dude who was trying to get into my pants, you know. And the reason why I tell you this story is because I had no idea. I had no idea what I wanted, and he knew that. He could smell it a mile away that day when we met over a glass of wine. I had no, anytime he'd suggest something or ask me, I didn't know. I didn't know what I wanted in my life at the time. I was just freshly out of divorce, traveling and whatever. And in the years that passed, a year later or 2 years later, I was at home and back in Canada, I mean, for a visit, and I got really clear. I know what I want. I know what I want. I'm gonna call him. And so I called him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Manj from Canada. Listen, why don't you ring me when you get back to England?" And I did. Still, there was still nothing. It wasn't concrete, and he knew that. And that repeated one more time when I had come back to Canada to get things together, and I thought I had it, and maybe I did. I can't remember. I called him, and he said to me, "Yes, Manj, listen, I'm sitting across from Jude Law right now. We're just going over a screenplay. So why don't you call me back? And when you get back to London." That whole thing repeated, and nothing ever happened. I was so scared to call him and ask for anything. So the point of this story is get clear for yourself. Get clear for yourself, because it's so worth your. It's you. It's your existence. If he came up to me now, my God, I would say, yes, I've got this and I've got this, and I need this to bring that so I can do this and fly, absolutely fly. In any case, that's an old story, which brings me to present day and getting clear why it's so important. When you get clear, things start to happen. Whoever made up or whatever made up this law of attraction, source, energy, your divine being, the innermost part of you, it's waiting for you to get clear. They're on the sideline saying, "Hey, baby, unscramble your frequency. We're trying to reach you," but you keep resisting. So when you start getting clear, things start to happen. So I love to give you this example, because getting clear is bringing about change. So I went to a local coffee shop yesterday to change my environment for something that I wanted to do. And I wanted to do just quickly and bang it out, some writing. So I got Starbucks and got my coffee. And instead of sitting at a table by myself, I saw it, I looked at it. And then, in a trice, I looked right and I saw a long table with a whole bunch of people sitting there. And I thought, that's where I'm going to sit. So there I went. Sat across this fellow, and he was loud in a meeting, and I was like, maybe I'll move. No, I'll just stay here. So I put up my stuff and I start writing. But I overheard his conversation, and it kind of made my heart flutter, because the things that he was talking about is the things that I'm thinking of. So after he's done, and after I built up the courage to speak to him, I knocked on his proverbial door, and we got into conversation. And I asked him what he's doing, and then he asked me what I'm doing, and I told him everything that I'm doing in a few lines, and he said to me, "Wow, that's really neat. How funny, because just I'm working on somebody's website," and he gave the name. And that person speaks the same language, says the exact same thing. And the moment that he said Love Alchemy, which is a hair salon in London, I nearly I nearly dropped out of my skin because only the day before, en route to the most mind-blowing yoga class ever, thank you Tony Sadie at Shangri-La, I walked past Love Alchemy. And I looked inside and I saw that, hey, they got really natural stuff. And my mane is due for a cut because it's been a very, very long time. And, you know, they feel really good to me, though the salon was closed at the time. So here he is. He's talking about them. And I've just, you know, yesterday seen them, made very notice of them. And, you know, it was all really, I mean, it was so many levels of beautiful. I packed up my stuff, left soon after, finished what I needed to do. But, you know, I felt so big. I felt so wonderful. And that's what clarity does. That's what clarity does for you. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, if anything, with this lovely fellow that I met in terms of work. But certainly I'm going to the opening of Love Alchemy's hair salon when they open it, I hope. I'm invited, that is. And if nothing else happens, it's a beautiful sign from the cheerleaders of the law of attraction. Those guys who make it up saying, hey kid, you're on the right path. If that's all it is, it's all it is, which is wonderful. So on that note, may I bless you with the courage to step forward in your life, to get clear, to roll up your sleeves, put the goggles on, put your wellies on, and wade through the stuff of your subconscious, of your mind, of all the things that are going on, have been going on, that your intuition's been screaming about, your alarm bells have been ringing over and over again. Go there and take a look. Stop everything that you're doing. Get a piece of A4. Start writing. Don't write forever. Write quickly what you want in your life. Just sit there and write. And in fact, if you want to send that to me, I'd love to see it. I would love to see your life from now until your very last breath. I'd love to collect your stories. I'm going to write my own today again. And yeah, I really hope that you do that. Get clear. Get really clear, my darlings. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Lots of love to you, and see you next time.